I'm Charlotte McLeod with the Investing News Network, and here today with me is Alex Christopher, president of PDAC. Thank you for joining me today.
Charlotte, it's great to be here. It's great to meet you in person, which is phenomenal. It's been so long, 2 years, 3 months, and some odd days since we were all last year in person. I think a lot has changed in the industry over that period of time, and so we're really excited to be back here for a live convention in 2022.
Yes, I would definitely echo that. It's great to be back in person, really enjoying the convention. I have been kind of stuck in this little area here, though, so I wanted to start by asking you, I'm sure you've been out on the floor speaking to people. What is sentiment feeling like to you?
Well, there's really great sentiment here. I mean, I said a lot of it's changed. So there's a big push with respect to metal prices. So there's a lot of excitement out there. I think we've had a great crowd. Yesterday, opening ceremonies, it was a full house. We had a lineup yesterday of almost 2 hours for registration. So it just shows you the interest and really the excitement to get back here and talk to people in person.
Yeah, definitely. We saw those lines going around. There's a lot of excitement. So you took the helm as president, I believe, in 2021. I wanted to ask you a little bit about that experience, coming into this position during COVID, and now, of course, we're hopefully coming out of it.
No, so I think first off, when I started towards the role of president, well, obviously we never expected COVID to happen. Certainly a lot of the first year of my presidentship here has been focused on how we flex during the pandemic, right? So a lot of focus on the convention itself, making sure that we actually got back live and in person this year. I think that between decision to go with the live convention and then the late decision to move the convention from March to June, which we still weren't sure how it would go off, but obviously things have turned out great. So I'm really proud of that. I've got our strategic planning on the back burner, waiting to get through this. But once we get that done, we'll pop into our 5-year strategic planning cycle.
Yeah, totally understandable. And, anecdotally, I like the June date. It seems like people are really responding well to that, although I know that we are going back to March as usual next year. I also wanted to talk about, we've got a lot of junior exploration companies out here at PDAC. What do you think is the biggest challenge that they're facing today?
Well, I think there's short-term and long-term challenges for companies all the time, right? So because we have volatile metal prices, that means a volatile industry or industry in flux quite often. So clearly, access to capital is a very important issue for our junior companies or our members. The Canadian government has quite a number of things that give an advantage to Canadians exploring in Canada that other folks don't have in other countries. So whether that's the flow-through share financing, mineral exploration tax credit. So that's all very encouraging. But access to capital is a big issue. Without capital, explorers can't explore. I think the other really big issue is access to land. So big companies may have lots of projects. Small companies quite often have just a few projects. So delays in access to land, delays in permitting, those all have a big impact on the junior industry. I think for PDAC and how we start thinking about giving guidance to government around policy, I think that's really where we focus.
Right, and at the other end of the scale, there's a presence from major miners here as well. What kinds of challenges are they looking at right now?
Well, I think when you think about major miners, I mean, the challenge is finding enough new deposits and new resources actually to develop. I mean, and hence the junior mining industry, which actually is basically the breeding ground for those discoveries. But I think that's a key thing for major miners. Obviously, there's a lot of focus on ESG right now, and certainly the sustainability practices are a key theme for major miners. So a lot of effort into that, lots of effort into Indigenous relations, and lots of effort into interactions with the communities where we operate.
Right, and these are, of course, issues and topics that we're seeing addressed here, which is great. I wanted to ask a little bit about your background. So you worked at Teck Resources for many years. You have a background in exploration. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about how you've seen exploration change over the decades.
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, our whole industry has changed over time, as has the world around us, right? I mean, I laugh, my children, never really saw, technology that came and went during my life. And when we start seeing our grandkids looking at that sort of thing, it's amazing how quickly that technology changes, and it's changing faster and faster. So exploration today, communications is massively different. You used to be put out remotely and not have any good communications. Today, you have as fast internet in a remote camp as you do at your home, and sometimes even faster. I think that the amount of data we collect because of technology is tremendously different than when I started in the industry, and that really gives us a much better insight into the rocks or into the earth, which actually enhances our ability to both find things and then as well to extract minerals economically. So that's important. The ability to take all that data we're collecting and actually process it. So that data analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, those are all things that are just progressing at a blinding pace, right? So this is a really exciting time for young people coming into the industry, and it brings a lot of different disciplines into the industry. You bring people with backgrounds that are nowhere near geology, and they're going to add just as much value to the discovery chain.
Right. Okay. That all sounds great. And I want to also hone in on ESG. You mentioned it. It's something that is a major topic of conversation here as well as in the broader mining industry. Do you see perceptions changing? Because I know that the mining industry tends to, from the general public, have a little bit of a bad reputation. And we did see yesterday, I don't know about today, we have the protesters outside. Mm-hmm. Do you think that is changing? And are companies doing a good job helping that along?
So I think, first of all, there's a difference between performance and reputation, right? So I think that's a key thing that we have to think about. I think that the ESG movement has been embraced by industry. The move towards a low carbon future is something that actually is going to stimulate the industry for several decades to come. So this is an important thing as we go out and develop the minerals we need actually to make that transition. Whether that's copper, whether those are battery elements, whether those are critical minerals. So that's a really important thing. And we need to balance this polarity of ESG because on one hand, we need to get there, and we need to do this to get there. On the other hand, we also see ESG, in directing into the permitting side of the business, right? And that actually makes it more difficult to develop deposits. So there's a bit of a balance that needs to happen here. If we want to achieve the future, we have to actually get a good balance between the ability to permit and get access to those deposits against the ability to produce the metals to actually get us over the line.
Okay, and I want to wrap up with kind of what I hope is a fun question. The most interesting conversation or piece of information that you've heard during the convention so far?
Today, that's a good question. Boy, this you've got me stumped on this one. I'm just trying to think of what I've heard here that was so good or so different or so interesting. And I guess to say I've had some really good conversations with some folks around technology, and just how if we don't keep up with that technology, we're going to get left in the dust, and that's as an individuals or individual companies. So for anybody that's here, they need to go out and make sure they're up to speed on what has changed, and particularly 2 years, 3 months doesn't seem like a long period of time, but from a technology point of view, if you just practice what you did 2 years plus ago, you're going to be left in the dust by your competitors.
Okay, well, I think that's everything for me. Thank you so much for being here to talk. We'll send you now back out on the show floor. I'm sure you've got a busy couple of days ahead of you still.
Certainly. Excellent. Very nice to see you again.
Yes, you too. And once again, I'm Charlotte McLeod with the Investing News Network, and this is Alex Christopher with PDAC.